Hello! Chances are, if you're watching this, you've read a picture book or maybe 100 picture books in your lifetime. Whether your parents read them to you when you were a kid or you read them to your own children, picture books have a wide audience, kids everywhere and their parents. On the off chance that you're not familiar with the term picture book, here's what I mean. These are short books that are usually, but not always, larger than the size of a piece of paper. They have a short number of pages and words, and they're illustrated to keep the attention of children who aren't able to read the words for themselves yet. Because of this, they're usually read out loud by a parent or another adult. I'm not gonna lie, even though I'm in my 20s, I love to read picture books. They're short and easy to read, but by no means is every picture book created equal. Often I go to the library and read through a stack of a dozen or 24 picture books, and depending on the day, there's usually only a few that really grab me. It's so exciting to find those few gems in that huge stack of picture books. It's like finding the one poem in a book of poetry that really speaks to you, or the line in a novel that glitters and you have to reread it more than all of the others. So what goes into writing a picture book? Well, these stories start in the same way as any other story does, with a writer who comes up with an idea and writes down a story. Picture book manuscripts tend to be very short. They're formatted the same way as any other piece of writing, so the text only takes up a few pages, usually between 200 and 1,000 words. These days, picture books are trending shorter and shorter. If you think that makes them easier to write, think again. With so few words, every choice matters, and it can be really hard to tell a complete story. Every word has to add something to the manuscript. So some things to keep in mind are that the illustrator will be able to add far more detail to the story than the writer can with just a few lines. Picture book writers tend to avoid including details like size, shape, color, or anything else that can be accurately communicated by the illustrator instead. What the writer wants to focus on are the other senses. What does the character feel? What can they smell, hear, or taste? The idea is to tell as powerful a story as possible in as few words as you can. Something else to keep in mind is that the publishing standard for picture books is 32 pages. While your manuscript will be written in paragraphs just like a novel manuscript would be, it can be helpful to dummy your story out over a 32-page spread. If the story is published, the publisher ultimately decides where the page breaks are going to be, but this exercise can help you make sure that there is room in your story for at least 15-page spread illustrations. Let's talk a little bit more about these illustrations. A common misconception is that in order to write picture books, you have to be a writer and an illustrator. In fact, while there are some artistically ambidextrous author illustrators out there, if you look at the front cover of most picture books, you'll see two names, the author and the illustrator. Here's how the process works. The author writes the manuscript, sends it out to agents and publishers, and waits to get responses, just like any other writer does. When the text is accepted by a publisher, the publisher chooses an illustrator who they think is a good match for the story or for the book the publisher wants to sell. The author usually has very little say in this. The publisher pays both creators, and eventually the book goes to print. Have you ever tried to write a picture book? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments below, as well as any other questions you might have about writing or publishing picture books. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for a new video every Wednesday. Thanks for watching and happy writing.